Copy link. Paste. All right, we are up and ready to roll. Good morning, everybody. Popping in. Happy Sunday morning. Just gonna fill in some more gaps here. Over here, especially. I'm gonna tape her up real quick, but someone's like, "Hey, you should be using this other stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, I know it's fine, but I should probably look into it just because I'd be curious to use it anyway." The drawing frisket, but I need to cover our little friend here up. Got my palette all set up. Need to roll. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Just, probably don't need to go over here, but getting this painting protected on the edges so I don't go over it. There we go. And a little bit of, where's that at? Medium. Borders before I forget. Yeah, I just I do these things where I fill up these sketchbook pages, and so just putting that on there to keep me from accidentally painting over them. And then I put a little medium, acrylic medium under the border here of the tape, so when I paint near the edge, it doesn't go underneath it. I mean, it doesn't really matter because it's just a sketchbook page, but it's like trying to practice different things. This morning, I found something I was very excited about that I couldn't remember the artist's name. I don't know that I ever knew it because I came across him as a kid, but I remembered his work. And someone posted some of his stuff into a little thing in Twitter, and I was like, that guy, that's the guy I've been trying to remember for a long time. Um, and there he was. So John Gurche, Gurche. If you go look him up, you can find his website, Instagram, etc. He doesn't post very often on Instagram, um, but I had this book as a kid. I think it's called Lost in Time. I looked it up on Amazon. It came out when I was 10 years old in 1988. Probably got it for my birthday or something, or Christmas or whatever. But I wore that book apart. It had like it was more than just his work, but um, it was like the illustrations and it's like it was like a reimagining of what dinosaurs are. And he actually got hired for Jurassic Park later on. But we're gonna paint this warthog. Let's save him to animals. I think it'll fit in well right here. But yeah, I had no idea what his name was or where he was from or any of that. I couldn't, a little kid, I didn't really pay attention to who the artist was. I just like, oh, this is an amazing picture in this book. It was just kind of magically there. But his paintings, they look like photographs of dinosaurs, like cinematic photos. Just really, really dynamic illustrations. But the other thing that's kind of amazing too is there we go. They're small, so like like they're 10 by 14 inches or 9 by 12 inches. They're not giant illustrations, and but I was just excited to find it because I was like, I'd asked this paleo guy about it a long time ago, who was working with what's her face, Tara Whitlatch, and I was asking him about who the artist was, and it's like, oh, now I remember. Now I know. He was wrong. He would guess somebody else. It was really good too, but it wasn't the person I was trying to remember. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with John Gurche's work, I definitely recommend checking him out. Gurche. Gurche. I still don't say his name, but like, it's not just like they're nicely painted, like the design and it's extremely cinematic and dynamic. It looked like he was like they almost look like he's like underneath the dinosaur's feet, like with his camera, just like snapping away, like insane, impossible shots. And they're acrylic too, which I was actually surprised. Most of them, anyway. He has a page for prints on his site. He doesn't have like a print store, but he's like, "Oh, contact me and I'll sell you a print." And thinking maybe I should email him. He doesn't have a huge amount of followers. He doesn't post very often online, but he's got a whole website and definitely worth checking out. I was just excited to find this artist. His work I've always liked, admired. And apparently, they hired him for Jurassic Park because he was part of that big movement where they changed where the perception of what dinosaurs are was changed in the scientific and public mind. To be these more fast and dynamic creatures, which was a big paradigm shift for everybody because most of us have been raised, even me as a kid, that dinosaurs were slow and stupid we don't, nobody thinks about dinosaurs that way anymore. And but it's thanks to people like him that kind of brought it into the public attention. And I was just surprised about how small the actual images were. It's like, oh, these are really, really tiny. Um, so, oh yeah, I haven't paid as much attention to kind of innovations in paleo art in a long time. I do have a student who's he's really into paleo art stuff. It's like as soon as you mention dinosaurs, like he just starts like chattering away. Um, but so I'll have to bring this artist up to him and see what he thinks of it. But um, because he thinks he didn't do that many illustrations, so I wonder like where did all that skill like come from and go, and I have questions, and so um, because he also does sculptural reproductions of hominid portraits now. So he takes a skull and information about a hominid and does a portrait of the skull, of the head rather, the full head, and yeah, I was excited to find that this morning. Like, hey, wait a second. Well, no, he's got it all mixed together. He's a professor at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, which is an important kind of research school. Been around a long time. It's all kind of mixed together on his website and on his Instagram. So, but I can see like the paintings that would be really really time intensive. Like they probably take weeks to finish. I got a bot over on Kick. I need to kick. But and I was just thrilled to find that. I was like, hey, wait a second, it's that guy. Um, so yeah, but yeah, I was just shocked about how small those paintings were. Like they're really really tiny. And it's like generally speaking, in illustration of that kind, you work large, and then when you print it, you shrink it down, and that's what kind of makes it look that detailed. But they're not, they're being when they're printed in the book. I mean, they couldn't be much more than a third to half size or something like that. So, looking at them on his site, I guess the originals are for sale, but I can't imagine you'd want to give them up for very cheap. Um, I'd be curious to see if there's like a technique approach or someone he studied with. Um, so he's doing the paintings in the 80s. It probably took him a couple of years to finish. Um, so, um, It's always just fun to find stuff like that, like the internet, showing you something actually you really want to see. It's actually a big topic of discussion in paleo art is the problems with AI because it can't accurately reproduce things at all, and so when paleo artists see people trying to use AI stuff for dinosaurs and that or dead mammals or whatever, extinct mammals, they get really upset because like it doesn't work. So it requires a certain level of research and attention to the subject and knowledge that you just don't think impossible because of how generative AI works. Yeah, we have to check him out. John Curche. Curche. Those ones you're like, hey, wait a second. Wait just 1 second. That's that guy. One of those art heroes I had as a kid, but I didn't know who he was. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think part of it is he just, you can work really small and detailed with acrylics, right? Because it dries really fast, and you can work really small with anything. But I think it's just how he was working the acrylics, just really, really carefully layering things up. Probably used an airbrush, for some things, lots of retarders and mediums that could kind of slow painting process down. Probably built. Good morning. Really good reference models. Like you see, he's like really into sculpting these monkeys, ancient human heads that maybe he probably built models for all of those. And it takes time, just to get, slowly kind of reproduce them. I think a few of them said oil on them or mixed media, so maybe use oils for some of the transition because there's a lot of like really nice kind of atmosphere and smoke and fog. Well, smoke, but maybe some smoke, but fog and dust, things like that in there. So in order to kind of work a surface like that, you really have to kind of plan ahead and get a lot done in the making of it. But yeah, like I said, I was excited to find that artist because it's been bothering. It's been sitting in the back of my head for a while now. Ever since I had that conversation with this guy, and guy who was working with Tara Whitlatch, and oh, thanks. Just actually, I should probably aim the camera up a little bit. Yeah, and for myself, these are my morning studies. I decided to start kind of messing around with acrylic again. I had to teach it last semester, and because they wouldn't let me use oils in the building, so I was like, all right, I'll do acrylic. And um, and acrylic's a medium that has vexed me for many years. So you had to use it for classes as a student. I didn't like it. I didn't like how it felt. Didn't like how the paint built up. And then I later got into oil painting, and that was like, oh, I really like this, or gouache painting, because I liked how you could work the edges and kind of develop the details of it. And then recently in that class, I did a painting I was actually pretty happy with as a demo. It's like maybe my problem with acrylics stemmed from the fact that I didn't know how to paint as a young student. I was lacking in certain skills at the time, and as a result, it was more frustrating, and I just didn't think about it that way. I think I still prefer oil or gouache at this point, but um, yeah. So I'm painting that other painting. I was pretty happy with how it ended up, and then I was playing around with this stuff, doing that other piece that's up here. I put a time lapse out of it recently, but I was working on that live. It's a morning study. It was supposed to just been a quick little painting, and then I turned it into like this extensively long process. But um, but I bought a bunch of mediums last semester when I was getting ready for the class, and one of them was a high flow medium, and I think that's helped a lot. So the eyes right there, and that's made a difference for how it feels when I'm painting with it. And then, as I was teaching that class, I was also bringing in artists who I know use a lot of acrylic paint, like James C. Christensen, who's since passed away, but also like Doug Chang, who's over at Lucasfilm as their head concept guy, and then a number of others, John Jude Polankar, looking at the Spectrum books and things like that. More, there's also more kind of abstract people like Andrew Hem or James Jean, who uses acrylic quite a lot. And I've got his Robota book, however that's called properly. But yeah, like finding this high flow medium has like made things a lot easier for me because it makes the paint feel less chunky. I'm using like this, high, this very thick paint, just so I can get more paint on the surface. Oh, look at Michael Whalen, of course. He doesn't post on Instagram anymore. He pulled all of his stuff off. He's over, I think it's pretty much exclusively, I think, on Cara, CARA, that other social media app. Kind of lost a lot of its cachet, but I don't think he really cares because he's retired. Or mostly retired. But yeah, I was excited to find this artist. It's like, oh, here's this guy's work that I've always really, really liked. And it inspired me as a kid, and didn't know what had happened to it. I think Ralph McQuarrie used acrylic. Ugh. Hate it when they put like remixes into playlists of artist songs. But yeah, so I'm gonna put some mileage into these acrylics. I think I want to do some concept pieces for my little project in acrylic. I got some pieces into the Infected by Art annual, which is a juried annual for sci-fi fantasy illustration. So that was fun. The acrylic piece I submitted didn't get in, so that was a little bit sad. But I got a couple pieces in. But so that'll come out this year sometime. Yeah, so I was looking at these acrylic, just kind of re-examining the acrylic thing. Yeah. Um, yeah, if you're not familiar with James Christensen, you should look him up. James C. Christensen. He's not around anymore, but you can still get his books, I think, on Amazon. But he uses this cross-hatching approach a lot that I'm using for some things in here, where you kind of build up. It's more like a tempera style of acrylic painting. Because if you're doing acrylic, egg tempera. Yeah, so excited to get that. I got like a bronze in the category, so like third place in the category, which means I'll get a larger image in there, and then an honorable mention too, which is nice. For a couple of digital pieces for my little comic project that I did. So I hadn't applied to those kinds of things in a long, long time, so I was excited to get in. So I actually mostly just applied. I teach at a university, and I have to do what's called research. And one of the things to get into is like into juried or peer-reviewed publications. And so for artists, that kind of thing helps a lot. Yeah. Did everyone at your university have a heart attack when Adobe said they were going to kill uh, animate? Or are they not using that there? Um, yeah, it seems like the technique for me is that this is kind of building up. Yeah. Okay, so it's more 3D animation, not the 2D stuff then. Um, I hear they're revamping ZBrush's interface to make it more like the mobile one in the near future. I get it for free at my university, ZBrush, like most universities do. Um, but I've mostly been using Nomad Sculpt lately. Actually, I should build a creature. A lot of things I wish I had time for. I see. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I bought ZBrush when I was a student, when it was version 1.5 a long, long time ago. Before it was like being taught in universities, I had to kind of learn the basics on it. I wanted to build like a rough game model or something in it. The thing I built was actually kind of really, really simple and basic, but was part of my senior uh, project to kind of build up this concept project. So I built like this 3D model of these creatures I designed for the project. Yeah. Um, yeah. So yeah, I need to get. I've got a. Well, the thing is, like a lot of the creatures I design, like once I kind of have them in my head, I can really see them pretty clearly, and so um, so I don't always need like a 3D model, but I think it'd be handy to have. Um, Thought about doing some real sculpting here, and I lower my table because I want to learn to use Sculpey. Or shift my morning study like to building references. So I spend like an hour a day working on, building something in 3D or making a physical model in the morning, or concept pieces for my project rather than just these studies. As much as possible, I'd like for studies to be kind of actually something that's for or something. Like most stuff right here is pretty random. It's just stuff. But 30 minutes. Yeah, but I like Nomad just because it's so simple. I do wish it had a few things in there, like IMM brushes or VDM brushes. Yep, have a good one. Do look up that artist. Give him a follow. Check out his website, John Gertch. Um, Definitely worth checking out. He doesn't post very often, but like every couple of years or whatever. So that's kind of disappointing. But maybe he just never got traction, so he didn't care. Um, Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. I've been picking up some new followers lately, which is nice to see. Got back to more consistent posting, so um, I think that's helping the algorithm decide to put me out there in front of people. I might need to take a break here in a second. Stomach's yelling at me. I'm going to pull a note up. Come back here in a few minutes. Alright, here's a pen. I gotta do this real quick. Let's see. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Where's those headphones at? Good morning. Oof. I was in here talking to another guy about this artist I rediscovered for myself. Um, paleo artist. And I was in here talking about him earlier. A guy named John Gurch, Gurche. You can look up his website, and his Instagram, and all that. But just a really, really incredible paleo artist. Sorry, Bosh. Like, get out of my way. I'm trying to lay down. Get your leg out. Too much water. It was an artist whose work I was blown away by as like a little kid, 10-year-old or whatever. And the book came out in 1988 that he was in, featured heavily in. So, I couldn't remember his name. I have this book at home. It's full of his stuff at my mom's that I should collect. It was falling apart last time I saw it, so I don't even know if they still have it anymore. Like I read it till it fell apart as a kid. But yeah, if you're not familiar with John Gurch, do check his stuff out. He's, I guess he mostly sculpts these days. But his paintings, they look like photographs of dinosaurs. Like he's on the ground, in the middle of the herd, like taking pictures as like a wildlife photographer or something. Kind of really treating them like living animals rather than static creatures. And back when that book came out in the late 80s, that was when the big change in the perception of the way dinosaurs was happening. Or basically, before, like when I was a little kid, it was still, everyone kind of thought dinosaurs were slow and stupid and had to live in water to balance their weight, that kind of stuff. And but that turned out to not be the case at all. And so he was one of the artists that kind of brought it to the public attention that dinosaurs had changed. Our understanding of them had changed significantly. So I was excited to find that artist. And, I know his name, remember it. Someone posted like a little thing on Twitter, a little gallery of his stuff, because he never did that many paintings, from what I understand. As far as the volume of those kinds of works. But great. These guys do these dance albums. I could block like remixes on one of these. things, I would 100% do that. I'm guessing when he's painting, like he does a lot of sanding. So one of the ways of like keeping your work really smooth is to kind of build it up and then sand it back. You know, unless you're really, really precise right at the very, very beginning. And that kind of pulls off a lot of the impasto. At least the brush strokes mostly there, but it pulls off a lot of the impasto, so it makes it easier to put fresh, more specific details on the surfaces. Um, Especially wet sanding with like a high density sandpaper. And then kind of just slowly build stuff up. Yeah, but I'm really excited to find things that I'm wasn't aware was around. I assumed he wasn't around anymore. I figured he was, my little kid brain said he was an old man when I was, 10 years old, whatever that meant. And so I assumed he's passed, but now he's a professor at the university in New York State, in Ithaca at Cornell. So let's see what's going on up here at the top of his head, under the shadow. Good morning. All right. The other thing that shocked me about his work was just how small the paintings are. Like a lot of them aren't any bigger than the sheet of paper, and the kind of level of detail and fidelity to realism is just like amazing. Um, you don't see that very often, even among like some of the best illustrators and artists out there, especially when it comes to acrylic work. Like it takes a lot to push that level of photorealism into painting. So, looking forward to sharing that with students. Touch this guy up and I'll be done with this for the morning. What I need to take care of real quick and then cleaned up and jump into those pages if I can't finish another page, at least one today. Trying to get the pencils done on those pages I started. Hopefully the warthog's looking okay for everybody. So, yeah, a little warthog over here. Here we're going to do over here and down here. Hopefully finish this up tomorrow. Probably do this and that tomorrow, and then we can lift off this tape. And this page will be done. Having spent 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, well, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Let's see, let's say I started this on the 9th. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, so 7 days on this page. Something like that. I appreciate that. Just working on my little acrylic morning studies. I was talking earlier about artists that I really liked as a kid. But I couldn't remember his name. I knew the book it was in, but I couldn't remember the name of the book either. John Gurche, Gurche, was really, really incredible paleo artist. And anyway, I saw someone posted some of his images today on Twitter. I was like, that's the guy. And I was trying to find that today, so I've been talking about that a bunch in here. And yeah, I think we're going to call that here for this morning. And I think tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow I should be able to finish in the rest of this face and start another page. I don't know if I'll do the back on the end of this or not. So I usually, paint on the back side of pages, so or draw on both sides of the pages rather. But just kind of use the sketchbook up as a practice book. But yeah, thanks everybody that came in. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you all later.